Fantastic Four, Volume 3 Omnibus Edition. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, 952 pages from Marvel. This book came out in 2021 and it's got an absolutely brilliant cover. I love the way they've mixed the Fantastic Four going off into space, as well as, of course, Reed Richards, etc. To make it really emphasise, you've got the rocket there as well. Weird combination, and even got the cosmic rays up there as well. So let's just go through the book in there. Well, what you've got on the back, as usual, you've got all the covers. You've got here, obviously, the Sandman story, Century. There was just some classics this time. And then you've got there, Volume 3, obviously got that small. Now, they've changed the design. So if you've got an earlier one, maybe you've got Volume 2 in the old style, it's going to be slightly odd having the thing. And also, they've gone for very, 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 very tiny. Really? That tiny? Hardly read it. Lee and Kirby. And also, the Fantastic Four. Always have to have the Fantastic Four. Which is odd when they, of course, it says Fantastic Four, but they've gone for the Fantastic Four. However, minor issue. I haven't got Volume 1. Maybe I'll get that one day. Actually, to be honest, I'm not that worried about getting Volume 1. I've got them in Epic Collections, and I've looked at them. I'm not certain about that one yet. Maybe at some point I might buy it. But Volume 2, that's absolutely superb. Obviously, the Galactus story there. You've got some classic stories. You've got some classic stories in Volume 1, of course, as well. Actually, was it? Yeah, the Super Skrull one. I love that one, Super Skrull story. That's one of my favourites. And, of course, Doctor Doom, etc. However, you've got the Frightful Four, all those ones. So that's Volume 2. And also, there is no Volume 5 yet, I don't think. So you've got Volume 4, Fantastic Four Omnibus. And you can see it's all in the same style. So they've obviously gone for that style. Now, unfortunately, of course, they're not actually all the same style. So some have got, obviously, you've got the Human Torch on that one. And you've got the Fantastic Four as with this one. Though, for some weird reason, that one's, yeah, Volume 3's got the Thing on it as well. Why did they leave poor old Thing off? Ben Grimm. That's for Volume 4. Great stories as well. However, since you're coming for Volume 3, let's go through Volume 3. But it is weird when you notice that they've got Crystal there as well. It's nice, sneak Crystal in as well. Most strange. Let's just take this off. Now the cover, let's just, never can take those off elegantly. They always seem to want to drag. And I suppose I should open it up to make it easier to open that. Right, so let's just move that out of the way. And you can see there, Fantastic Four Omnibus. And again, the Fantastic Four all the way. Marvel Omnibus there, and you've got exactly the same there. And of course, you've got the usual. I mean, I think as long as you open it carefully, open the front and the back, and you carefully open it and spread it out 2 or 3 times. I know it's terrible you have to do that, but when you've got 952 pages, it does seem to have a tendency to really be quite tight. And then you hear it, when you open it, crack. And you think, oh dear. And I have got some omnibus editions where it's really, really warped, where I've got them at a second hand, and they're like literally warping, and you think, will they fall out at some point? Hope not. But however, lovely black and white there. Let's just go through the book itself. And let's just go through the front page. You've got the front page, great front page. So why did they go for that one? That's weird. Maybe they could have put Crystal on the front as well. Collecting, you can see obviously the details there, standing. Now that's quite big. So they've gone for that, but they've gone very small for the actual contents. Very strange. And as always, whenever you open these or try to open these things, you can never open them. They always stick. The pages always seem to have got over. However, there's all the contents. You've got a great selection of stories there. The Power and the Pride. You've got Madness and Moleman, The Thing Enslaved. Of course, you've got the classic stories, the Skrull ones. I love those ones. They were just some of my favourite. I got those really quite early, and I just loved them. Always loved that. I know it's a sort of obviously still just brilliant. And you've got there the artwork is just absolutely, like, you can really see the sharpness, absolutely beautiful. Now, of course, the colouring is in the modern style. Not everyone loves that style. So you've got Sandman, of course, they're punishing the Sandman, or Sandman all comes out, the biggest mistake you, etc. And you got that. So, and of course, you then go on to Blastaar. The stories really kept coming at that point. There was some just classic Jack Kirby there, of course, Stan Lee, Joe Sinnott, lettering Sam Rosen. Never ever said who the colourer was. No one ever put comments saying colouring by, which is always a pity. I always felt who did the colouring? No, obviously now it's been recoloured just to confuse the issue, but who did the original colouring? No idea. Did someone, was there... However, always love the fact they've included the letters pages, and of course, what I would love to see, of course, is the checklist. Now, the checklist, unfortunately, sometimes appeared on the page, on this page. Not always, but sometimes did. So you've actually got it included, more often in the earlier ones. But later on, it was all just the letter pages, and the checklist would be somewhere other section with the Marvel pool pen or something. You got Blastaar, look at that, Blastaar there, really dramatic. And you, of course, got Sandman really thinking, oh dear, what's happening here? And also you had stories, other, obviously, Claw and everything going on at the same time. And, of course, the Kree there. And again, weirdly, another panel that's really massive. Yeah. But still, I love the Kree and the Sinister Sentry. Sentry Sinister, one of them. And, of course, you got Warlock as well, or him, as he was called then. They obviously hadn't decided on his name, but it was still good. And, of course, when he came, it's very different from the Warlock that we know now. You got Black Panther story, you got the Inhumans, you got the peerless power of Silver Surfer, Quasimodo. Great little story stuck in there. A bit odd that they put it there, but I suppose because, of course, it was in the annual. So I guess that's the reason, but just a bit odd, obviously in stories of Fantastic Four. Now, actually, sometimes most of the art is super, super sharp, really sharp. And yet you get occasional panel there, this one, slightly got a bit of a roughness to it. Occasionally you see that in these things. I mean, sometimes it's just you think, wow. And then sometimes it just suddenly the panel looks a bit odd. And that's one of them. And you've got, I love the Wizard as well with his Wonder Gloves. Just wow. Why he never went back to the Wonder Gloves? Who knows? It's weird. He could have made his Wonder Gloves even better. And then he could, of course, come out with the Infinity Gauntlet, couldn't he, at that point? Maybe not. But that would have been a story too far ahead of itself. You've got the Fantastic Four there. Again, of course, you've got the android there. And so it ends. And another great, massive, obviously, Sue Storm there. Johnny! And you've got Silver Surfer. You've got some Galactus. Just great stories. Absolutely great stories. Now, sometimes I think that probably slightly before that, obviously, the second volume has got maybe more classic stories. But still, I really love this. I mean, not all of them are classics. I mean, some are a bit... But most, a good 90% of these are just great stories. Again, he did overuse a lot of the big, massive panels. Of course, people might have liked those. I don't know. Maybe people bought 2 copies and put those up on the wall. But you've got this sort of thing where you've got, and I can't even say it. I'm not even going to say it. Tomazuma. And So Speaks. That's pretty good. But of course, I'm not going to say what happens. And you've got another one there. Again, another big... Yeah, definitely a bit of... When you get these volumes, you often probably don't notice it so much. Maybe do. I don't know. You don't notice it when it's going from comic to comic to comic. But when you get a volume like this, when you can really look at it and go through it all the way through, you start noticing, you think, oh, that's another excessive amount. And not really necessary. I mean, that personally, that panel... However, I'm not going to criticise Jack Kirby's work. I think Jack Kirby is one of the best. I love Jack Kirby's. But occasionally I think, oh, he did overuse sometimes those panels a bit too many times. However, enter the exquisite Elemental. Of course, that was the point where it was a bit of a changeover with Crystal. Now, I would have loved to have seen Crystal remain a member. I always felt that Human Torch and Crystal, I don't know why they didn't. I never, ever understood why they just didn't have that. So, but, of course, that didn't happen. But they... ended up, of course, with Quicksilver, etc. Slight change. But then it's like me with, obviously, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Why? But then, of course, Mary Jane. So, always issues and things and changes. And, of course, the creative team would decide, oh, we want to do this or do that. Not always what the fans particularly want, always. The Name is Doom. Just a classic. I love that one. The Name is Doom. Now... always, I love that cover with they did that a few times, you know, that big sort of massive Doom one where he's hanging over the whole thing, and but it is a classic. You've got obviously his town there. He sort of shows occasionally, you sort of think, oh, we've got to do this or do that. He doesn't, and then suddenly, oh, I better worry about it. Very changeable in his attitudes towards what's happening, but still brilliant. And of course, you've got again the letters pages. I love the letters pages. Letters page are actually always fascinating, because you always just find out what's sort of happening, you know, at the time. What was the interests and things that people were concerned about in these books. And again, the power and the pride. Doctor Doom have their moment of truth at last. And I think it's just one of the great endings as well. Just one of the classic endings. I just think it just shows a bit of the character of Doctor Doom. And then, of course, it goes sadly into the Moleman. One of my least favourite characters. Maybe Moleman could have been a contender. One of those characters that possibly could have done a bit better. But still, it's always been a sort of, which is always pity because he was in, of course, issue 1. But this is a classic for me. I love this story, the Scroll story. So it's really lovely. Yeah, some great, and also a lot of introduction of characters and things that maybe he could have been a contender as well. I don't know. I don't know what his name was. Magnoman. They should resurrect Magnoman. He's a character that definitely needs, and there's also a load of other characters as well. Look at him. He's pretty powerful. They give Magneto a run for his money. Magnoman versus Magneto would be a classic. Probably not. Arena of Death, as they do. It's sort of obviously Roman Empire, sort of Spartacus kind of thing. And it's just great. I love the flying car. You can't beat a flying car. And, well, gangster. And then onto the back, you've got some bonus strip. Not a huge amount of bonus strip. A reasonable selection of, but you've got some pencil pages. Can't beat a pencil page from Jack Kirby. And it's always fascinating to see. Always fascinating to see. However, one thing that's more recently I've noticed, and I'm just probably not going to find it, yes, this. They do seem to be doing these covers on 4s. Now, I really would love to see the Omnibus edition. I'm not see now it's out, that's it. But it would have been lovely to have seen them full page. Would have been, because sometimes the covers are similar to the originals, and sometimes they're not. And it would be nice, the ones that actually are very different from the originals would have been nice as a full page. Now, maybe you could say that some of the ones that are obviously exactly the same, why bother? But it would be nice to just put the, because I'm certain some of these are slightly different. Maybe they're not. And some of these sort of Marvel tales or whatever, or this one, of course, is Marvel Greatest Comics. They are different. However, as a book, it's a masterpiece. I love it. Volume 3 is just an absolute joy. It's the stories I will always pick up and reread again and over. Just, I love them. Absolutely love them. So I would definitely recommend this. It's brilliant. I love these Omnibus editions. And let's just finish off, show the cover. Now, I think there's 2 covers. I haven't got obviously the other one, but this is the cover I got. It's just superb, just lovely. Oh, I suppose I better show what actually was included. You can see there, just probably make it out. Fantastic Four, 61 to 93, annuals 5 to 7. I'm not certain there was much material in 7. Maybe it was a little bit of material, but that's just brilliant. And of course, you've got there as well, all the details, etc. So that's it. Absolutely, totally recommended